Hello my crafty friends, it's Beverly here over at Crafting Chaos, and I'm here with the video on how to make the unicorn card, which I think would be really good fun for the little girls or even the bigger girls in your life, because unicorns and mermaids, they don't seem to be able to get enough of them. Alright, so this is kind of the thing we're aiming for, as you can see it on the screen. As always, the files that I create are available for free download over on my blog. Now, the first thing you need to do is locate yourself a unicorn image. All I did was went onto the net and searched for a unicorn head silhouette and a free download. So we wanted one that was free and royalty free and not going to be subject to any copyright. So there's a few places you can try, Pixabay or what's the other one now? Free silhouettes or something like that. There's lots if you go on. If you just type in to Google unicorn head and then make sure you check your copyright so that you're not infringing on that, you'll be fine. Okay, so there's lots and lots of images out there and I'm sure you'll find one. So what I'm going to do first of all is, because I've found my image, I'm going to go on the tracing function, which is the fourth icon down on the left hand side of the screen, and we're going to locate the file on, and I've saved it on my desktop. So I would suggest once you've found a file that you like, you save it to your desktop so it's easy for you to find later. So all I'm doing now is just doing an image trace, and I'm just going to knock the numbers down right down to as low because it's just black and white, and I'm going to untick this here because I don't want the image itself, I just want the trace on my page. Okay, so untick that and then say OK. So that's brought on a rather large copy of a unicorn head. So I'm going to start off by resizing. So I'm going to the second icon down on the right and I'm going to resize, and I'm going to maintain the aspect ratio so it doesn't go all out of shape, and we're going to make it 6 like so, roundabout. There you go. So there's our image. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to make our base card. So what I'm going to do first of all, because I'd prefer it to be just a little bit more upright than it is, so I'm just going to rotate it freely by a few degrees just so that we're getting a more of a flat surface there. Okay, so that's our unicorn head. I'm going to now take a duplicate, so you can either right click and duplicate, or you can layer and duplicate, or if you've made the shortcut, then you can use the shortcut that you've created. Okay, so now we've got two of the same file and we need to flip one horizontally so it's the mirror image. So we're using, still in the second icon on the right, in the edit menu we're going to hit flip and we want horizontal. So now you can see we've got the mirror image of that unicorn head. Now I'm going to take another duplicate of the one that's facing us to the right, heads facing to the right, because we're going to need that as a layer for on top of our unicorn when we're finished. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap the images somewhat. I'm going to select both and I'm going to line them up to the bottom, and then we're going to weld them together. So that's effectively created the base card. And what I'm going to do is, just for ease, I'm just going to remove those bits in the centre so that we've got a nice area where we can score down to make our fold line. So I'm going to double click to expose the nodes, and then I'm just going to drag around the nodes, select the nodes by dragging, and that'll put a box around them, and hit minus at the top here. So minus those nodes, and then we're going to select the next lot again and minus, and one more time around the next one and minus, and for the final time and minus. That should just about do it, I think. Let's now click off anywhere on your page so that you can see what you've created. Now I'm just going to give that some colour so we can see what I'm going to make it a pale grey so we can see what we're working with. Now at the moment we've got our unicorn head base card and our unicorn from the front, so we're just going to raise that to the top. So I'm just going to make sure the white one is selected, arrange and bring to the front. So now that's at the front, and if we make it white, you can see that that's a perfect matting layer for that. Now I do want to have, so that's going to mean that you're not the main missing once you've actually made your base card. So next thing I'm going to do is make an insert for the card. So I'm going to duplicate that file, and we're going to close that colour down for now, and I'm going to zoom fit to matte, display, zoom to matte size so that we can see what we're doing. Doesn't really matter which one I select because they're both identical. I'm going to select one, and we need it to be exactly the same shape but just a smidgen smaller. So we're going to select the second icon down again at edit menu. We're going right down to the bottom and clicking offset. And we're going to make a small offset about 0.0 inches. And we want it to go inward. So we're going to change that to inward. We're going to leave it round so that it gets round all the curves, and we're going to say OK. So now that's made us an insert for our unicorn. Now if it's a little bit like that one is, it's just a little bit too thin, what you can do is make it even smaller. Try 0.04 and see what that's looking like. Say OK. And now we've got a perfect layer for our insert. So I'm going to drag that off to the side, and we'll leave that for now. So next we're going to work with this file here. I'm going to now delete the other one of those that we don't need. So now we've got the base card and the insert. So next I'm going to create a scoring line. So we're going to go on, we're going to line this up down at the bottom, and we're going to go on the fourth icon down, and we're going to snap to grid. That way then we know that I've got this selected now, and the middle of that, if we zoom in you'll see it better. Let me just get on the zoom tool. You can see that the centre, whoops, I've gone a bit too far in now, but the centre of that line is almost, but not quite, on that line that's on the desktop there. So I'm just going to undo that for a second. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to use my keys just to get that right in the middle, and then I'm going to display fit to matte. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get on the snap to grid, and I'm going to click on the path tool, and we're going to click on that line, and we're going to drag out. Now this is going to be longer than we need to start with, but that's not a problem. So we're going to drag it out, holding the shift key down to make it straight, and double click to anchor. That's created our line. So next we're going up to the top here, and we want to select the line pattern. We need to change that to a dotted line, which is a perforating line on your scan and cuts, and that will then perforate the line if you wish. Alternatively, you could leave this step out, and you could certainly score it down that line on your scoreboard by hand, and that would work just as well. So all I'm doing now is resizing the line here. We've got it selected because it's in blue, and we're going to shorten the line and just going to scoot it up and down. Again, it's just a little bit too big, so I'm going to go a bit smaller, and then we're going to zoom in and see how we're looking. Okay, I'm going to just take it a small bit smaller. So I'm going to click on that shape from within the layers palette, which is the third icon down, because that's the easiest way to select it when you're selecting just a line. So in the layers you can see all the layers that you've got available, and then I'm going to go back to the edit menu, which is the second icon down, and I'm just going to do it manually now because I want it to be less than 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to make it 2.65 and see how that looks. I say OK, and we're going to click off so we can see the line, and just need to move it a smidge down. So again, back onto the layers using the keys, and if it does that, it means you've got it on snap to grid. So go on the fourth icon and undo that so that you can move it a little bit at a time. Then using your arrow keys, you can position the line that you've just created, and if we zoom in, we can see what we're doing. I'm going to just make it just a little bit smaller, and this is just all by eye because I don't want the last perforation line to be on the outer line of the base card. So whilst it's selected now from within, I'm going to make it 2.6 and see how that looks. So I'm going to click off, not with that I'm going to zoom back out again, and then I'm going to make sure that's selected. We'll click off, and we just need to select it and move it down a smidge, and that should be okay now. could just maybe stand to be a little bit smaller, and you can fiddle with this as much as you want. I just don't want I'm going to make it 2.5 and see how that is, and I just don't want the last perforation to be right on the edge, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. Right, so if I zoom in so we can just see that perforated line, what I'm meaning is I don't want that perforating line to let on where the edge of the base card will be, because that will weaken the spine, if you will, and it could tear. So I want to make sure that those are within the realms of that. Now I think I can just scoot it down just one more with my keys, click on, and that seems to be more or less good now. So that seems to be in the middle, and we've got nothing touching either top and bottom. So we're going to display zoom fit to mat, and that's the base card complete. We're going to select both of those parts and we're going to layer and group them. So now we can move that around without actually disturbing the image. So next I'm going to take a duplicate of that, because that's the perfect matting layer from the top there, and we're going to use this other one that we've got a duplicate of now by layering, duplicating, right clicking, duplicating, or using your keyboard shortcut. So what I'm going to do now is, like I've done here, I broke it down so that we had some separate pieces for the mane and also for the eye and the horn, so that it could be white. So all I'm going to do is bring on a square, because that's the easiest one to work with, and I'm going to rotate it until it's looking, and we're just going to resize it. So what I'm aiming to do is get it so that I can trim off the unicorn's horn. So just need to make that a little bit narrower. So I'm just using the grab handles on the side to make it a little bit smaller, and if we zoom in just a little we can see where we're working. So I'm just aiming to get this in position so that I'm going to remove the horn of the unicorn, if you will. Don't worry, no actual unicorns were injured during this video. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove that by going on to the edit menu, process the overlap and subtract. Nope, sorry, wrong one. Select it again. It's not subtract, it's the divide that I want. So now we've got our unicorn horn. We can get rid of that, and that can be matted on as a white piece. So I'm going to take that to white. Just turn it grey and then you can see it. Now this was the next part, so we need an eye. So all I did was bring on an eye shape, so a nice fish eye shape. So let's have a look, which one did I use? Here we are. So it's a little bit big, obviously. So I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. So second icon down, edit, angle 90 and rotate. Then we can resize. So we're going to shrink it down proportionally so that it's the right size for our diagram, and position it roughly where you think the eye could be. I'm not an expert certainly on drawing, but I'm just going to use the angle now just to tilt it slightly so it's not dead straight. That looks okay to me. Then I want a nostril, so I'm going to go back on and bring on a circle. Again, miles too big. I'm going to resize it down, so take it right down. Whoops, not so small. And just increase it a little bit. Oh, not so much. And that's too big, and that's too small. So we'll manually do it at a 0.2, see what that looks like. I'll position that over where the nostril for the horse might be, roughly where it might be, or rather not the horse, the unicorn. So you can always have a look and have a look at a actual horse's head if you think that might help. I'm just going to make the eye a little bit bigger and I think a little bit narrower, and that looks more in keeping to me. So that's our eye and our, so I'm going to select both of those by holding the shift key down and the main head. Then we're going to do process the overlap and subtract. Now that's effectively punched out those holes, and if we change the unicorn, its colour will make it a nice pink colour. So now there's our unicorn minus the horn, which is here, which we're obviously going to paper piece all these back together on that main piece so that you've got the different colours. So the next thing I'm going to do is work on the mane. And how I did this, I did it in a freehand way. So I've got the drawing tool here. Now you can either do this or leave this bit out. It's entirely your choice. Get on that straight path. This will allow us, if you hold your shift key down, to click round where you need to be. So all I'm doing is just getting away that I can just remove and then double click to remove, to join it back together as one. Select both shapes, and again we're going to do the edit, process the overlap and break it apart. So now it's the main part that we need. Okay, so there we have it. There's the main. We can also, oh, I don't want to do that, hang on. Move that back. Just going to go back a step. Redo that bit. I didn't take a copy, so I'm just going to make another working copy of that one before I do the divide. So then divide, and it's the main that we want, and the rest we can subtract. So now we've got the main, so we've got the horn that we can piece on. We've got our main that we can piece on. That can be in a different colour. So we can make that a purple or a white or a grey, whatever you want to cut it out of, just to make it stand out. So there's the main. Now all I did just to add a little bit of dimension was with the freehand tool, just drew a few lines that it could actually cut into your card, just to give it some feeling of dimension. So I'm just clicking and drawing the lines in so that if you did do any inking, it would go into those areas and make it look a little bit more shape. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to move the head out of the way and the horn, and we're going to select all of that, and I'm going to group it together. Okay, so now I should be able to move that separately from that. So we're nearly there now. All you need to do next is just make yourself a circle. Bring on a circle. This is for the eye. And I'm going to shrink it down so that it'll fit behind my unicorn, its eye. I'm going to make it white, and I'm going to send it to the back, like so. Layer, arrange, send to back. So now that's a piece that can go underneath. Whilst it's selected, I'm going to duplicate, and I'm going to make the pupil for the horse's eye, and I'm going to shrink it down. Shh, Bella, shh. I'm going to select it and resize it, and then if we move it to where the horse's eye is, and we can now send that one backwards. Layer, arrange, send backwards. So it sent it behind the pink but in front of the white. Obviously you do this by send it back one more. So it's going to behind the back one. So then we've got the horse's or the unicorn's eye in position. There's his mane. There's his horn. And obviously you can paper piece these bits back together on your mount that's here. So if we layer fit to map, display, zoom fit to map, we've now got our, let's see, to review what we've got. We've got our base card, which is here. We've got our insert, which is here. We've got our piecing pieces that are here. And this is the white piece for on top that fits perfectly to piece the paper onto. The last thing to do is a greeting. So I just did, what did I do? Birthday girl. So again, back into the text editor, and we're going to write birthday girl, not in capitals though, birthday girl, say OK, select a font, a nice scripty one, a nice one, let's have a look. Which one did I use? Can't remember now, it's a while since I did the file. You can choose whichever you want really, but let's have a look at that one. That one looks okay. I'm going to shrink it down now by selecting everything proportionally. So I'm going to have a look at how it's looking on my file before I finalise it. So I'm going to have it here. So it could just be a little bit bigger than that. So I'm just going to undo that rotation for now. And I'm going to just increase the size a little bit. I think let's just check it to make sure everything still fits. Maybe just a little smaller, so just a tiny bit. So I'm going to take it down to about 2.4. That should be okay. And then I'm going to divide, which is going to break the whole thing apart. Select just the birthday, and we're going to group it, layer and group. Then we're going to select the girl part of the file and layer and group. Then we're going to make sure we set both of them, and we're going to set both of them to drawing lines. And we'll select both and rotate them a little, like so. And then we can move them into position on our pink layer. So we're going to move that there, birthday, and girl. So that's just going to select that girl and move it down a little bit, so it's not touching the other one. Maybe not quite so far. I think that's okay. And that's basically the file how we created the unicorn. So I'm just going to select it, make sure it all fits on my mat. I'm going to go and cut this out now, and then I'll show you what the file actually looks like complete at the end of the video. So that's it for now. So thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please remember to like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.